That's what I found. This is really important. The moments in my life where I had nothing going on, but I sat down and I got my friends together and I said, let's make something for the love of the game. Let's just make something for us that makes us laugh, that we enjoy doing. Every single fucking time I did that, the universe smiled on me. The universe conspired in my favor and said, I like what they're doing. They're doing it for the right reasons. I'm going to help them out.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Today's chat is a little bit different and it's absolutely hilarious, blended in with mysticism and ancient secrets. Dan dives deep and reveals various secrets of the universe. He has this beautiful, forward-moving mindset, along with deep compassion and empathy, plus a desire to genuinely want the world to be a better place. I love his abundance mindset, and he isn't scared to talk about certain taboo topics, which I love. If you're a truth seeker and looking to level up, per Dan's words, this is the chat for you. Plus, you'll probably reach enlightenment as well. But in all seriousness, this chat was an absolute thrill for me. I loved it, and I was buzzing with excitement during and after. Also, I'd love to know your thoughts on this chat, so please let me know. Okay, so let's get into it and officially introduce today's guest. Dan Fogler is an actor, comedian, director, writer, podcaster, producer, and comic book creator. Whew. His resume is way too long to read, but you probably recognize him from his many roles, such as Jacob in the Fantastic Beasts franchise. The popular franchise sees Fogler playing opposite Eddie Redmayne, Johnny Depp, Katherine Waterston, and Jude Law, and extends J.K. Rowling's magical world of witches and wizards to a new generation, as well as Luke in The Walking Dead, Francis Ford Coppola in The Offer, which is the exciting tale of the making of The Godfather, Marvin Goldberg in The Goldbergs, Balls of Fury, Hannibal, Man Up, Secret and Lies, and Stu in Good Luck Chuck. Dan is also a Tony Award-winning actor and can most recently be seen in Spinning Gold. He also hosts the Dan Fogler 4D Experience, a podcast where his guests join him in discussing the latest movies he's seen in 4D. And hopefully, I will appear on that one, and I'll let you know when that happens. As you can imagine, we go extremely deep in this chat, and we talk about comic books, alchemy, his bar mitzvah, transcendental meditation, the universe, meeting his heroes and making it awkward, and manifestation. Before we get into this chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I find it adds a new element and dynamic to these chats. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny and Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out every Monday at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, with the video to follow the following day. Anyway, sit back, relax, and enjoy today's epic episode. We might start now, we might start 5 minutes from now, but I think we're going to have to start with your bar mitzvah failure story. You need to tell me about that story.
We might start now. We might start 5 minutes from now. Is this, are you like...
When we find our groove.
Oh, we find our groove. Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. I thought it was like a time traveling thing. I thought I thought that we were traveling through time.
You could write a comic on that, actually.
You're gonna write a comic on that?
No, I'm sure you could. I had a look that you're a comic book wizard as well.
I'm a comic book wizard.
You are.
Yes, I am. Yeah, I do have comic books. I have all sorts of comic books, man. With Heavy Metal Magazine, I got 3 titles.
Cool.
Are you a comic book person? Do you like comic books?
Yes and no. I'm not a fan like you, but I have read a few over the years. But I've heard you on a few podcasts talk about them, and my goodness, you know what you're talking about, and it's really cool that you've been able to transition into them as
Oh,
well.
yeah, I grew up reading comic books, and that's how, like, it's basically how I learned to read. Um, and and then, like, got reinforced because John Belushi. I was really into John Belushi, and he was just like, read comic books and do all the voices and everything, and I was just like, oh shit, all right, okay, so I'm doing the right thing, you know. And it just, so it just grew from that. And yeah, a lot of, like, writing comic books. um I'm so nerdy. Like, I would do, like, role playing. I would do role playing games and Dungeons and Dragons and, like, the Marvel game and all that. And then that would make you basically create your own characters, and then you write stories and backstories, and then it's like that is the breeding ground for creating movies and acting, and so it was everything was born out of that. So I owe a lot to my childhood and the things I loved during my childhood.
That is so
Comic
cool.
books. So I got Moon Lake, Brooklyn Gladiator, and Fishkill, and those are with heavy metal if you want to check them out.
If you can give me links, we can attach in the episode notes as well, because I've heard you talk about them, and the way that
Yeah.
someone speaks about it, their passions, is, I find, so contagious. But the way that you've spoken about it previously, it's like the most awesome thing to hear.
Oh man, I love all my little projects, all my babies, like Moon Lake. We're turning that into an animated show right now.
Oh, that's so cool.
So knock on wood, it goes and we sell it and you see it on some streaming network at some point. Um, and that is like my Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone, like homage, heavy metal, the movie. So yeah, all of the things I love are in that, and very excited about that. And Brooklyn Gladiator is like Blade Runner, Matrix,
Oh, they're just
my homage to dystopic, futuristic stuff. And Fishkill is happening now. It's like a modern noir with a little bit of sci-fi sprinkled in, and it's the prequel of the Brooklyn Gladiator. I think you dig it, man. We're planning on making all this stuff into watchable stuff.
that's the dream, because I've been writing a movie for the last little while, and it sounds similar to that one, the dystopian future one. And the themes that you talk about are so cool. And I know you're a very spiritual guy, and we'll talk about that in a bit as well. But
So
those themes that you were talking about was so cool. Did you think that you would be actually like writing comic books? Was that the goal when you were starting out, or was it comedy and
I
acting? And then,
always I always wanted to. I was writing my own little comic books when I was a kid.
oh wow,
Yeah. And drawing, and I would mostly do the drawing, and my brother would write the comics, and then it was always a dream of mine. And then I had to become an actor
had to
in order
become
for
yeah.
in order for one of these, and like, for and get into like some films that people recognize me in. And then I was able to get a meeting with some of these comic book publishers. And so my first one was Archaea. They gave me a chance, and so I've been doing it since 20 like around 2009 maybe was my first comic book that came out.
Oh, that is so cool. I like how you said you had to do the acting. So the acting just supplements the comic book career.
Yeah. No, I mean, that was my exactly, yeah, that was my journey in order to get to comic books. Like, I had to do all these other things in order to even get a meeting.
Isn't that
But that
so
was
cool?
just my journey. I don't know if I had focused on comic books first as a kid and stuck with that, who knows what could have happened if I would have knocked on some doors earlier.
I want to pigeonhole that this, so I don't forget. We were speaking off air about your failure bar mitzvah story, and
Yeah.
you said we had to talk about that on it, and then I'll get into further stuff on the comic book. Tell me what happened at your bar mitzvah. This is very intriguing.
Yeah, my failure at because I was like writing down all of these. I got in the mind frame of like, ooh, what are all the times I had horrendous things happen during important moments in my life? And then you said, and then when you got on the Zoom, you were like, shalom. And I was just like,
I'm so proud to tell people.
Okay. I was like, okay, hello. And so then I was instantly like, oh, right. My bar mitzvah I got messed up during that. I learned my bar mitzvah phonetically. So like my cantor, who was a lovely guy, I had all sorts of like learning disabilities growing up, and I've certainly had ADD for sure.
Everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, but I had it like before they were medicating, which is great. Like I never took anything for it, and they didn't really say, okay, you have ADD. They were like, yeah, you got some learning issues, you know. And so thank God people took pity on me for that. And so, but I was like 13 trying to figure out like, you know, why the hell like it's like you try to learn Hebrew, you know, like it's like the opposite direction. You're going, you know, you're reading
left and right, and
yeah, it's crazy. It's like you're learning it's like basically you're learning Chinese, you know. It's like there's a whole new letters, figures. And so I was like, this is really hard for me. So the cantor was like, okay, we'll just do it phonetically. So he wrote out everything
in English,
you know, in English for me. And I was just like, okay, great. And I knew it like that. I was like, so then we get there on the day and they open up the Torah and it's all Hebrew. And I'm just like,
That's exactly what happened to me.
and then I was like, okay, I remember it. And the cantor's like, don't worry. You have this. I've heard you do it a million times. I'm just going to point along, you know, so it looks like you're reading from the thing. I was like, okay, great. So I'm just like reading. And then I hit a word. And then for some reason, I go off into some brilliant morning prayer. Like I'm just like
a completely different what?
A totally different prayer. It's for the morning, and it's just like, what's going on? And the people in the audience who know are like looking around and just like, what? And then, but I'm doing really good at that, and my knees are shaking. And so the rabbi comes to one side, and the cantor comes to one side, and they press like next to me, so my knees stop shaking because I'm like. Like the whole thing is shaking, like the whole podium is shaking because I'm like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? It was crazy. Finally, I hit another word and I go, right, and I get right back to it. But the whole time they're pointing with the metal, you know, giant metal finger.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's there, it's right there. I'm like, but I can't just be like, I don't know Hebrew. You know, it was very tricky. And then finally I got back on and I'm like, okay, I finished it. And I was like, does that count? Like, are you allowed to break into another prayer in the middle of your Haftorah? Like,
bonus points.
Like, you know? And then, yeah. And then like, the kids in my temple were crazy. Because they throw the candy at you afterward.
Yeah.
So people were getting hurt, you know? So I was like, holy crap. And I just ducked down and it was like Normandy, you know? It was just like.
You didn't use the rabbi as a human shield? That's what we used to do.
Oh, you got behind the rabbi. That's
smart.
No, the rabbis ran. They knew. They were like, screw it. I'm not getting a cough drop guy.
Everyone for themselves. It's like that George Costanza bit in Seinfeld when there's a fire and he knocks over the old lady and he runs out, you know, the children's birthday party. And do you watch Seinfeld?
Oh, I do, but I didn't see that one.
Oh, that breaks my heart. We have a very similar bar mitzvah story, and I've never spoken about this before, where I also couldn't read. And so I had like two people try and teach me, and they also tried to teach me phonetically.
Yeah.
And when I actually got there was the exact same situation. So I skipped an entire paragraph.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's okay. It's okay. And I realized, like, can I go back? And they're like, no, just keep on going. Well, it's hard to recover from that. But you did.
Oh, man. It is hard. That's what it's all about, the recovery. Like, if you can be going down in flames, but if you figure out how to, pull out of the nosedive, suddenly you're a hero. It's like, yeah.
Did you embrace it at the end, or like I was so embarrassed I could barely make eye contact with people afterwards? Did you embrace it? You're like, whatever, I'm going to get some food and hopefully some gifts.
No, everyone was just like, oh, it was great.
Yeah,
like,
no one listens.
if I wasn't able to get back on track, there were times where you just like, fuck, you just mess up and you're just like, oh God, I was off. I'm so sorry. I've had those times where you just like, you go down in flames, and it's usually, those are live scenarios. Unfortunately, when it's like in a play, in a musical, like, can you imagine? It's like, it's one thing. Okay, like I've become like a good improviser because I know that there are times, and I love these moments where I'm going to be on stage and the other person either goes up on their line or I go up on my line, because it's a 2-hour performance, like, and we're humans. There's an audience, there's distractions, shit can happen. So you got to be ready. So I am always ready with, the continuing bit. And sometimes that bit is hysterical. And then sometimes you go up on your line and it's horrendous, because you're in front of like a million people and the other person is not improvisationally trained, trained in improv, and you're just screwed. You're just sitting there on stage. You're just like, and it's really rough. Like those moments where it's just like, wow, this is like in stand up. You ever done stand up, man?
Yeah.
And there are times where you're on stage and you're just like, holy shit, these jokes killed last night, and you're just like, oh, okay. They're not drunk yet. That's what it was, and then you come back at the time that they were all drunk and you're just like, okay, they're going to have a great show. And they're just all, shut the fuck up. And it's a horrendous audience again. And you're just like, what is it? Is it my chemistry? Is it their chemistry? Stand-up is so tricky, man. Like, and it's such how was your stand-up experience?
I haven't done it it very quickly went straight to screenwriting because I could paint a picture and write a lot better. But we've had so many stand-ups and like even examples of like, why didn't it go well? There's a lot of dynamics, as like it could just be the day, it could be the audience, it could be the light was off or they're eating. But one person was like, what do you mean? I've said this joke 10 times and I've got 9 laughs and I haven't got any laughs this time. And he realized he skipped his whole bit. He just kind of went into autopilot and like kind of like the Bar Mitzvah story and just went on a different tangent, and then he re-listened to it. And yeah, it's a crazy.
Yeah, it's sometimes those moments you'll sit there for days just being like, oh, reliving it. You're like, oh my God, that was awful. What was I thinking? And then there are those times when, like I said, you pull the nosedive into like you pull it out of crashing, and suddenly it's like, oh my God, the audience is on their feet, like applauding with you, because they sit there and they go, yeah, that never happened before. And we just watched this human being fix it before our eyes. And those moments are sometimes really magical. But like going up on a line during a musical is like, fuck, because what do? You're supposed to be, everyone's dancing and singing and they know what's going on, but you're just like, holy shit, what is my line? You know, and what are you gonna hum through the director is in the audience, or he's just like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, it's like boom. You have to be, and it happens to the best of us. You know, it's just, you know, it's crazy. You have to have a supercomputer for a mind.
But no, go on.
No, go ahead, pal.
I was just going to say that there's a few things. Like one, you've won a Tony Award, so you're the best at the best in that high caliber. I know you've had improv training, and it's, you know, people would be surprised that happens. I'm surprised it doesn't happen all the time because, as you said, 2 hours, and you might just not be concentrating for a second. And yeah. I would think, yeah, as it happen all the time. And you've obviously got improv, but if someone else doesn't have improv, then that can kind of like derail it. But you've got a really nice take saying that that's when you can allow for some magic. But you can allow for magic for you. But if you're like team member, it doesn't have improv, and they're just looking like, So
crazy example of that is, so I did the show, The Spelling Bee, which I got the Tony Award. Thank you for saying that.
I want to bring it up 100 times.
Well, no, it's nice to hear every single time. And so the same team, Bill Finn and Lapine, it was like a couple of years later, and they were like, hey, come do this show, A New Brain, which is another Bill Finn show, for encores. Okay. And that, if you don't know what it is, they basically put a fucking Broadway show together in a week. Whoa. You're surrounded by, you know, famous people from Broadway, and you come together, and you're just like, it's for charity, and it's like, and people come from all around to watch this performance that only goes for like two or three weekends. But you fucking have to, yeah. And you know, I'm a stoner, man. I'm a stoner. And like, okay, basically you're forced to learn your part in a week. So of course I get cocky. And then one of the nights I'm at the beginning of and if you know the show, the main character, so Jonathan Groff is sitting there on stage, and he's having brain tumor issues. So he's sitting there. So he's the star of the show. And I'm playing this character that's like the WB Frog homage. You know, I'm like a, you know, like, hello, my baby, that guy. Okay. And I'm dressed as a frog. And I go up on my line, and he's sitting there, and like, he can't do anything. He's just supposed to be, you know, in a coma. And I'm like, how the fuck does this song start? And I look over, and there's Vadim Feichner, who was basically the pianist on Spelling Bee. So I was like, there's a kind face. And I move over to him, and I'm sitting there, and the audience is just like, oh man. And
they realized.
Oh, of course. I'm like, what the hell? And so I go over to him. I was like, what the hell how does this song start? And he starts humming to me. He starts going, and I'm like, what are the fucking lines? You know, and he's just like, when you wanna, and I'm just like, he's like mouthing them to me. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like, fuck it. And I just go to the front. I'm like waddling to the front of the stage like a frog, trying to remember my goddamn lines. And I'm about to say to the audience, I'm so sorry. I don't know. I learned this a week ago, and I fucking forgot it. And then suddenly I remember. Oh. And the lines are, when you want to quit 'cause nothing works, don't give in. And the audience goes fucking nuts. They're on their feet. And the whole rest of the song is just like empowering song about when you think you're done and you think you want to quit, keep fucking going. And then I was the epitome of that in the moment.
You can't make that
And the
up.
audience was like, okay. When would you ever? It's like they were on their feet. It was pulled from the jaws of defeat, man. It was crazy.
I'm so happy that you bring that up. There's two things that spring to mind. But also, often when we hear these stories, the audience doesn't realize how bad it actually is. It's us that thinks it's a lot worse. And then through that, you got basically a standing ovation. I just think that's so awesome.
It's crazy. It could have gone really bad. You know, I've seen it go bad. Like I was watching a play and it was like a play with like heavy text. And it's usually in previews, you know, where like people are reviewing, and it's like, it's crazy. And this guy went up on his line and he was just like, I'm so bloody sorry. And he like walks off stage and he comes back with the script, and he did the rest of the play with the script in his hand.
No way.
But and people applauded him because it was such a wordy play. And they were like, all right, man, like the show must go on. Yeah, a lot of crazy moments like that. Like Spelling Bee, we never leave the stage.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's so many crazy, and we would bring audience members on stage with us. So, oh my God, this is so anything can happen, right? We would treat the audience members like they were one of us, like one of the kids, you know. And this one night, it was brilliant. This one night, there's this part where I take these peanut M&Ms, or actually the bully has peanut M&Ms, and my character has a peanut allergy, and the bully throws the peanut M&Ms at me, and I freak out about it, and I throw it back at him. Okay. And it's usually every single night he catches it and he goes on to his thing. This night he went to catch it and the fucking bag was like worn after, you know, several episodes, you know, several shows. And then the whole stage is now covered with peanut M&Ms. Okay. And we're just like, oh, fuck, we have to. So now everyone in their head is like, I can't do anything because I'm making a bit out of it because I have a peanut allergy. I'm like, right. And the audience is now, they're laughing at it. It's really sad actually. But now that I think about it, it's really funny. And they're laughing at me doing this bit. I'm like, how long can I keep this bit up? And everyone's thinking like, holy shit, we have a whole dance number coming up. We can't be just grinding peanut M&Ms into the dance floor here. So like it was written, like clockwork. Even the people that we brought up on stage, everyone stands up and they walk out and they grab one M&M because we're all sitting there on the bleachers. And some people ate them, some people put them in the pocket. And it was this, even the people that we brought up on stage cleared the whole stage. And that was a brilliant moment. That was like, you couldn't have written that. It was like everyone just thought at the same moment, we got to clear the stage. And they did in their own little perfect kid-like way. And that was one time only for that audience. And that's beautiful. That's what I love about live. Anything can happen. I miss that.
I've got a few questions.
Yeah.
Actually, we'll go back to that moment where you couldn't remember your lines and that song and the words that are, which is like a magical moment with those words about not giving up. And
yeah,
we could honestly speak about this for like 200 hours, but you've had a few moments in your career. I think it took you a while before you got acting gigs. And then there was a period, which I think this is a great story, where I think you're about to have your second child and you hadn't been working for a while and you literally prayed for a miracle. And I'd love to hear your take on that, because I know that you do speak about this a fair bit in terms of like manifesting, or when you've really like hit, inverted commas, the dumps, and how like, let's just call them miracles, can happen.
Yeah, miracles can happen. Like, yeah, when your dreams start coming true, that's when you're just like, oh, I I guess, there you can sort of send a message out on the ripples of space time, and sometimes if it's the right intention, you get your answer.
Yep.
It may be immediately, or it may be years later.
As with me, it's always years.
Yeah, yeah. You know, wow. Yeah. So I had a tradition. This is how I got my wife. This is how I got a lot of the main
So cool.
big miracles in my life. So I was about to have my second kid, and I needed a miracle. And my wife, she was about to give birth in 3 months, So I was like, holy shit, I need to. And I would always wish on a star on New Year's, like 10 minutes before New Year's. And I was doing it since college. Because I got together with my first major girlfriend after that thing, and I was like, I'm going to do this every year.
It works.
And
Pudding.
yeah, so this particular year, I wished, and I was like, we got to ask right. I've learned that certain words kind of mess with it, but
Would any that spring to mind that you can share? I'm trying to get a lot of scripts made. So
it's all right. Well, yeah, let me tell you what happened, and then I can break it down into more of like an energetic.
Yep, I'm all ears.
So I wish on a star. I say I need a miracle. My second daughter's coming into the world, and I was in sort of like a funk in my career, and I was like, I need something. And in my head, I was like, there's so many franchises out there that are coming back. And at the time, it was a lot of Star Wars stuff. I was like, let me be in one of these Star Wars things, I don't care. I'll be a droid, I don't like a voice of something. Like, I was like, I don't care. I just want to just be associated with it. And I always felt like if I can get a leg up on that little perch on the mountain, then that would beget something else,
Yep.
And so there's a Portuguese statement. It's Portuguese and it's Puerto Rican, and where a baby comes with, I forget the exact thing, but it's like it translates to a baby comes with a loaf of bread under their arm, which is like very painful for the mother, but like that means like they come with luck, they come with something. And this was true. So the kid's born, and around the same time my daughter's born, I get the audition for Fantastic Beasts. And so that was a bit of a miracle. I was like, what? Okay, this audition for this major franchise came out of nowhere, and at the time I was just like, wow, I win just going in for the audition for this.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's where I was at that time. Because I thought at that time in my career, I was like, wow, I thought that I would have to audition for this thing over here and get that, and then do this thing just to even get a little bit of attention for the audition for Fantastic Beasts. And I was like, whoa, I kind of made a leap out of nowhere. Like, okay. I really consider that a miracle. And of course, I got the part. So I was like, holy shit, like this is working.
That's awesome.
It wasn't, I was hoping for Star Wars, but
you got Fantastic Beasts, the biggest franchise in the world. Yeah.
I got the Wizarding World,
I didn't do my dreaming right.
See, yeah, exactly. So if I was more specific, so that's when you're manifesting stuff, it's good when you're more specific. when it's good not to use words like need and want, because the whatever's listening out there, whatever you believe, there's if you ask right, you will get an answer. And if you say I want and I need, the universe will say, oh, they want and need. So let's give them more of that, wanting and needing.
So what would you use instead? Can you say like I like?
What I've learned to do is to say things like they've already happened, and you say, with gratitude, thank you for letting that amazing thing happen in my life. Like, wow. Like, and that is what happens. And you can read it in all sorts of different beliefs and texts and religions, that it's an energy, a frequency, an emotion in your heart. When you believe, oh wow, that I'm so excited that these things are happening in my life. That's what the universe keys into, that emotion in your heart. And if you're an actor, I think it's easier to do that because you're constantly
being trained
playing with emotions.
I think that's so cool. Who speaks about the power of belief? I actually think there's a Jewish guy. I can't remember his name, but he talks about the science behind the power of belief and what it does.
It's like The Secret. It's like all these, like this. It's like they've written books about it.
Well, I've studied in belief systems and what it can actually do as well. So it's mind blowing, especially when you come from the exact opposite, where you go, "This is hocus pocus, this is the biggest load of shit," and then you actually try it. And I think I've written like 5 scripts for meditation, purely for meditation, just like doing similar things to what you've done. And that's actually why I wrote that movie that we were talking about before, purely from being in that state of grace or gratitude where it's already done. And you're like, what the hell is this? It's like a magical power that we all have.
Yeah. Everything is, like Einstein said, everything is frequency and vibration. And so power of a law of attraction, if you want something, you just have to be that thing and it will come to you.
It's as easy as that.
It's as easy as that.
It's also like removing the stress. You also have to like put in the work and do things. You can't doesn't just necessarily happen like that. But you have a famous quote, which I love. And I heard you say this. I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be a great chat. The universe conspires with you. And that says everything that you've said and more.
Yeah, that's from The Alchemist, man. You ever read The Alchemist?
Yeah, I read it. Yeah, I've got it just over there.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that was the one that kind of gave me the language that I needed to navigate these feelings, because they talk about in The Alchemist, when you're off the path, the universe conspires against you, basically beats the shit out of you. Like, get onto the path, asshole. And then once you're on the path, it's synchronicities. It's, you're walking and the bricks start laying before you, and you're just like, okay, everything's cool. You're kind of cruising along. That's the universe conspiring in your favor. That's when that's when you're on the right path. That we have these signals from our other brains. We're stuck in this brain, but our heart is a type of a brain. Our stomach
brain.
Our gut is a type of a brain. And we have signals, man, at our like all this shit. Like, I did this movie called Don Peyote that opened my mind to all of these things. Before that, I was very skeptical, but now I know it's real, that chakra centers are real, and we are these very powerful beings of energy. And so these are all focus points for knowledge. And so if you can hear the signals coming from that, if you can hear the signals coming from your heart, from your belly, a lot of us are trained to ignore that shit. So I have a weird feeling,
sweep it under the rug. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but in The Alchemist, it says, listen to that shit, man, and it'll help you get on the right path. Because if you ignore it, you're screwed. And
Yeah.
so a lot of people are ignoring their other brain centers.
It looks like the vast majority, and that's not in a judgmental way. I know because I used to be an accountant, and then I was like, what is this intuition? And then you follow it, and as you said, miracles happen, and your whole world changes. But I'm very interested to know is how did you like properly get on like your right path, if you want to call it that way? I know you said that example before.
How did I get on the right path? I guess the simplest way is you start paying attention to the miracles. Um, there's just so many times that you can say that's a coincidence.
Yep.
It's like, no, it's fucking not a coincidence. Like there is an energy, there's chi, prana, we are contained in these organic bodies, but the energy inside ripples out further than we realize. And and we're all connected. So when these miracles happen, like you're thinking of somebody and something they call you, or if you're really tapped in and you're thinking of somebody, happens a lot in kinetic New York City, would happen to me all the time. I'd be thinking to somebody and then I just bump into them. There's a lot of streets in New York City, but to do that all the fucking time, I was just thinking of you and then suddenly walk into them. I mean, it's a huge labyrinth, a maze. It happened to me all the fucking time.
At a young age or later?
All the time.
Oh, so you've been like this all the way and then you started listening. Normally something happens to people.
I'd say it would happen. I'm sure it was happening all through my life.
Yep.
I didn't recognize it. Like I know that when I was a kid, I was doing all sorts of stuff that I'm trying to do now. Like I was lucid dreaming all the time and I was astral projecting all the time. And as a kid, it was easy for me. And I lost that ability somewhere along the way. Probably when I, got into high school or something, and I don't know what happened. Puberty or something. I don't know what happened.
You go to school and then you say these stories and people go, you're crazy. And then you go through school and not necessarily go at the school system, right, but you're taught in a certain way. Yeah. And that changes you.
Yeah. And now in my early 30s, I started to really have an emergence of these abilities again out of nowhere. And so now between now and then, 10 years later, I'm like now making sense of this journey I'm on. It's crazy. Yeah, like, I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of little signs that happen that tell you that you're on the right path. And if you've been happening for a while, it just becomes like an everyday thing. Synchronicity as usual.
Okay, I'm loving this. You're speaking my language.
Okay.
We could speak about this for 10 hours, so we're going to have to do part 10.
Yeah, I mean, it's endless stories.
And it really rejuvenates. It's okay, through my experience and also speaking to guests and also guests off air, because some people don't necessarily like to talk about this stuff.
No, I like to talk about it.
Yeah, and that's why I love you, because I've heard you do sprinkles, but I haven't heard you speak quite in this depth about it.
Oh, I do. I'm on a podcast, like the 40 Experience podcast. That I do.
You do it on, yeah.
Yeah, you should come on my podcast, man. I do.
I would love to.
We always do a section, Tales from Beyond the Veil, where people talk about all their otherworldly experiences. And we go deep, man. We go down the rabbit hole.
Oh, man, that is so cool. So the follow-up question with that is, some people, through my experience, and even me, I don't get it. I don't go into this stuff that much in this podcast. Some people have always felt they'd want to keep that separate, or they don't want people to judge them, or all the various emotions that one goes through.
That's cool, man. Like I talk about it all the time. Like I've told that's like obviously on the Fantastic Beasts, trail. People ask like, I was like, it's a miracle. I wish on a star. Like during the PR trail, like I've told that story.
Cool.
It's a magical story, man. I've had many miracles happen to me in my life, and I've had things that have, like, I was very skeptical before, but then
Couldn't have
I've
been
had
more than me.
say what?
You couldn't have been more skeptical than me many years ago.
Yeah. But I've seen things, and things have happened to me that I'm just like, okay, it's real. And I think that that to me, when it becomes something tangible that I can feel, like chi or something like that, that's science at that point.
Mm.
That's not mystical. That's like, whoa, that's like a real feeling that's happening in my body. That's like one of the steps that you take when, during a hypothesis, it's at least a hypothesis. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 100%.
And you're just like, and so if a whole, generation of people are just like, nah, that's bullshit. Like, no, you're denying yourself. You're denying yourself all sorts of, extrasensory.
It's a superpower that we all have.
Feeling. Yeah, that intuition is very important. I think it's something that we're missing. A lot of people are missing. A lot of people are zombies out there. They're just living in the five senses, and they are. Yeah, that's crazy. Imagine listening to just one radio station your entire life.
Same frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is this something that your family taught you? You figured it out along the way. Then you've obviously read textbooks. You're smiling. What's the
My family? No, I feel like I'm a bit of a pioneer in this. Like, I feel like my mother is out there.
Okay.
She's like open to hearing this stuff, but I'm definitely
Sound like the black sheep.
yeah. Yeah. It's crazy, man. I did this movie Don Peyote, which was during this time in my 30s when I was going through this like real spiritual awakening, whatever the hell was happening. I was like, every pore of every like cell of my body was like, there is real magic out there in the world. There's real miracles out there. There's more than what we're being presented.
Yeah.
And yeah. So the path that I've been on from there has just been constantly fortified, reasserted. I'm definitely I'm on the path of talking about this stuff. That's what I feel like what I've learned my job is like to make this stuff things that's relatable, things that we can talk about, because it's not kooky. It's stuff that's happening and that all of us have. It's like, imagine, when they say like, oh, you're only using 10% of your brain, and everyone's just like, great. Like, no,
that's not great. Yeah.
That's not okay.
Why were you that's a fail.
Yeah, like like, oh, 80% of your DNA it's junk DNA.
Don't get me started on that.
I hate that. It's like, no, man. What is all that? What is locked away from us? And on those of us who were brought up on figuring out puzzles and fucking, role-playing games and video games and, what's the next level? There's a whole goddamn video game to be conquered inside of ourselves.
This is why I love, like, it's genuinely the artists that I speak to have such a unique take on it, because it really is like leveling up. And this plays in so well. And I find like creative people, when I was the accountant, this is not a go to accountants, I met accountants in this space as well, but you're using a different side of your brain. and so it can be harder for some people. But when one like fully immerses themselves in the creative field, you're activating a different side of the brain. And then, you've talked about stuff like intuition and how that's played a role, but that would also massively help your career and being able to tap into things, being able to perform, being able to write, and just, going with your gut feeling as well. Being amazing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, just the art of listening and waiting for someone to complete their thought, just that is half of acting. And just figuring out how to do that. There's so many things about like improv that blossom out into and branch out into real life, getting a job interview, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just listening, man. Like, and just taking that and just going out into like wilderness, and listening to those sounds, and learning how to be quiet and learning how to be silent. These are very helpful with acting, like in acting school, acting in life, just in general. But just I've learned like acting is the art of, it's basically the study of humanity. Every time I'm just like, wow, what the fuck are we doing? There's so many miracles in this business that have happened to me. I'm just like, yeah, man, there's real magic in this business. It's like there's real it's one of the last places where you can like you can have a performance and then someone sees that and they're inspired, or they cry or they laugh, or that to me is like, that's incredible. That's real magic. The kind of what is it? Walken calls it like he uses a ballet term. It's like when it's floating, whatever. It's like this feeling like when you're really on and the other people are on and you're in a scene and you're just like, wow, this is like life, it's like a beautiful alchemy of energy, and I know it's very pretentious talking about it like that, but
No, I think
just witnessing it, it's just like, oh, it's a noble profession, and I can see why it's lived on for so many years. I'm curious what's going to happen with like the AI infusion, where it's just like Bruce Willis just sold his soul to, sold his face to AI.
I saw that. That scares me,
Yeah.
but I also feel like I feel like we skipped that timeline, and I can talk about this for a long time. I do think it's happening, but not quite. I think it will get to a point, but I don't think we're going to have like Terminator. Although that would make a good movie, but I don't think we're going to.
Yeah. No, I was just thought, well, fuck, man. Yeah, Cyberdyne systems. We're pretty close to that, with all these drones or whatever. But no, I'm just like selfishly talking about like, AI just, coming in and just being like hella funny,
I could just see them got a gun to Elon Musk, like make that Neuralink now, and no one gets hurt. It's like, I'll make the Neuralink.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Yeah, what happens to, like, that's a graphic novel there, all the neuro-linked pigs, they like disappear and then they go on and become cyborg pigs.
It reminds me of like Star Trek when the hive mind.
Star Trek, hive mind, the Borg.
Yeah, yes. I only just got into Star Trek recently, so yeah. It's a crazy world. I wrote down like 200 points, literally 200 points, but you mentioned, because otherwise I'll just go on massive tangents.
Yeah, I didn't know that we were going to go there, man.
No, this is so cool. I love this. This energizes me.
Oh, good. Because I wrote down all these like times that I had failures in my life, and I only got to like one of them.
We will definitely get to them, but I think I think it's really cool that you're able to talk about this stuff because, everyone's got their own life and people are private to a degree, but you want to share this with the world, which is really cool. And you mentioned silence, and I know that you have done or you might do transcendental meditation, and that silence would really, being in that state, because I also, I'm going on many different tangents, but I also heard a quote from many years ago that it was hard for you to be silent or that you had a busy mind. And I would imagine that TM would massively help with that as well. And
oh, hell yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Transcendental meditation is, yeah, I've been like, I mean, I could probably teach you, but I don't want to take away from the people who are doing these workshops. I did a great workshop. You could basically learn it over a weekend. It's crazy. Like, and yeah, it's been very helpful. It's a very easy method of meditation. Like a lot of people are just like, how do I even meditate?
I don't have time, or it doesn't
I don't
work
have
for
time.
me.
I'm constantly distracted. But this is what really helped with learning this one was you're given your mantra, which I really believe it's like this special mantra that your teacher gives you. But I really believe it's a word that's just comprised of the sounds that the chakras give off.
Well, like
so
love, that type of stuff.
Yes, exactly. Like the crown is E, and they all like is the throat, ah is the heart. So I feel like they give you, this is just my interpretation, I feel like they give you some version of those sounds. Like, what do you need to work on? And they give you those sounds in a word, right?
I have this which is a little noise as well. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, no, all those bowls, the singing bowls, the chimes, it's all real, man. It's like you hit a frequency and that wakes up your chakras, man. Like some people, it's just a fact. So you have this word that is there to heal your chakra while you close your eyes and how do I distill it down? The most important thing was that while you're saying this, you're saying your word is kind of like your arms swimming in the black pool of your subconscious. You're just saying your little word to yourself, and you're swimming along your subconscious, okay? And every time you say it, you're just kind of propelling yourself forward in this vast ocean, this dark ocean of blackness. And then while you're doing that, you're making ripples, and then you'll get a thought that comes up, a bubble out of the dark depths, and it bubbles up. And a lot of people make the mistake of getting distracted by the bubble. They're like, what the fuck is that bubble all about? They're going to pop the bubble. They go to fucking, but this teaches you to just keep on swimming, man, and just watch the bubble. And that's what you're doing now, just swimming and healing your chakras. You're releasing all of these memories. Your dad used to beat you up, that bully from third grade. Like, you're like, and some people are like, why the hell am I thinking about that? And they get distracted. It's like, no, man, this is the healing. Just this process of you swimming and making ripples and saying your healing word, it lets up all of these different things that irk you. And then after a while, you feel lighter. You feel like, oh, wow, I'm doing the work. Like, I'm releasing all this stuff. I didn't have to go to a therapist. Like, I didn't have to, you're just doing it yourself. And that's amazing. And then suddenly you're able to just be in chaos, and you're the most calm person in that scenario. Like, there's many different versions of chaos in your life. The kids going nuts, you don't fall into, like in Buddhism, they talk about you're floating above the river and you're in this calm space, and you can either get sucked into the river, and a lot of people just spend their time in the fucking river just being like, oh, my problems, and they just love the river. But no, it's really healthy to rise above it and just float there and say, yeah, it's a river. That's it. It's not part of me. And it's really, goddamn, it's really relaxing. It relieves a lot of stress in your life, because a lot of people just get stuck in cycles. They're
Loops,
just like, thinking about the past, thinking about what that person said. And what are you, telepathic? No, until we're telepathic, until then, you don't know what the fucking other person is thinking, or what they thought about you in that audition or whatever. You got to just let it go. And TM, transcendental meditation, really helps you create a mechanism for yourself to do that.
And also it helps with telepathy as well. But what is...
Yeah. Well, fuck, man. Like, there's mainstream stuff going on about that.
I've even been looking into like some of the old like FBI files that you're talking about, astral projection. Like, this doesn't work. I'm like, what is all there? What do you mean? It's there. It's not even... Yeah. Anyway.
No, it's real. It's absolutely real. Yeah, we are.
This podcast is going to be cancelled. So
you think we're going to get canceled?
No,
I've talked about this shit.
Yeah,
I talked about this on my podcast. Even crazier shit, man, on my podcast. Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I think it's because it's not a big deal. It's you can find any of these references in a lot of other places, and you should do the research. If there's a word that chakras, what the fuck? Yeah, go go research that, man, and form an opinion about chi. You're like, chi, prana. What is that? These are healing things, man. Like, go figure that shit out, man. Please.
My PT opened my mind to a lot of these things, and I actually realized, and it's changed my whole perspective with my stubbornness. So when she was teaching me about some of these concepts, I'm like, that's ridiculous, or that's this, and I would lash out at her and actually be quite aggressive, like not like physically or anything. And she would just look at me with a smile, and it would change everything. And I realized in that moment, like, this isn't actually my thought. I'm actually reacting to something that I've heard that I don't actually know or believe, but I've got such a strong reaction. So what it's taught me is that when I like lash out, even if it's in my mind, is this actually what I think? Is this what I've been taught? Is this actually real? Is it not real? And I'm able to really pick up on my emotions, because a lot of our belief systems are not actually ours. We've been taught or we've heard it, and we don't actually know until someone like questions it. And so when we have someone like you which helps when you got the best resume in the world, and you talk about these things in such like a practical, non-attacking way, it's really easy for someone to hear it and listen. And I reckon you're going to inspire a lot of people as well, because it could help someone be in the path. Or there's a lot of people that I've spoken to that don't feel comfortable talking about this stuff, and it just allows them to be them as well.
Well, yeah, it's just, I'm not alone. I mean, there's many people out there that have had these experiences, that have been having these experiences, especially like just the subject of chi, like Bruce Lee was tapping into that. Like, that's a mainstream action star that everyone still talks about. And he was tapping into something that you can too, if you do the correct breathing, and if you do the correct same motion over and over again. You understand the mechanics of just how to place your body in a certain way that you get the most out of the energy in your body.
Like Tai Chi or something.
Well, Tai Chi, yeah. Well, I mean, it's in the Tai Chi is like basically you're massaging your your torsion field. Man, yeah. That's everybody has this. Yeah, man. Once you get into this stuff, like the Earth has a torus. The Earth has a torsion field. Like it's when you talk about it like that, where you have the aurora borealis. Okay, you have that energy coming out of the North Pole. Well, yeah, that's cascading over the sides of the Earth, and then it's getting sucked up through the fucking South Pole and out again like that. Okay, that happens to us. That's happening to that's happened to the sun. Every single planet has that this field of energy. So everyone who is healthy and has flowing chakras has this energy flowing through them. We're talking about the force now. Okay, it's like Lucas knew what the fuck he was talking about.
Yeah, he's a real wizard.
He was referencing
a lot of texts as well. Buddhism,
also,
yeah.
These Hindu, gurus and Buddhist monks that in all sorts of texts and stories of them doing miracles, So I'm just talking about and fuck, man, and Tesla. You talk about Tesla, okay? Nikola Tesla was tapping into this field.
Genius.
So he was tapping into this field. He was tapping into the chi of the earth. Okay, he was tapping into the torsion field of the earth and realized, my God, this is unlimited energy. Okay. And then the matrix were all little batteries. Okay. And that's what we are. We're super powered fucking batteries. We have something like an enormous number of electricity. Like each one of our cells has a certain amount of electricity in it. It's over trillions and trillions and trillions. So if they all suddenly started to decide to turn on at the same time, you would have there would be a mega burst of power that would come out of a single individual. They talk about these fucking like like people who like they combust, they just go on fire out of nowhere. You ever heard these stories?
I've not heard of that.
Yeah, look it up, man. Everyone's like, yeah, it's like they weren't anywhere near a fire. They were out in the middle of the fucking nowhere, and whether it was the chemistry or they still can't
become
explain
a force ghost.
What is it?
They became a force ghost, like in Star Wars, but also like,
oh man, I listen. Like, there is an energy, and it's real, and a lot of people have written about it, and there are a lot of religions based on it, and some of those religions, I'm very interested in the ones that are that deal with healing, because you can really heal others and heal yourself with that energy.
Agreed. We can speak about this for ages. Just before we get onto the failure topics, I think this is important. You talked about intuition, you've talked about meditating, you've talked about how we can actually empower ourselves to heal ourselves. Do you have any other advice for people who maybe, want to like tap in? Any books that you recommend, or maybe something that someone can do?
The Alchemist is a really short book that kind of sums it up in a parable about how to listen to these feelings. I had everything happen to me. Like, wow. Yeah, there's a lot of like you can just surf the internet, and it's kind of tricky. That's what I did. I just found people who were could like bring you through like a breathing exercise, or teach you. Like I'm self-taught. So basically I'm self-taught, like just taking pieces of different techniques that I've seen along the way. Like I went down the rabbit hole with this movie Don Peyote, and I had psychics come to me and tell me all sorts of shit and open up all sorts of um energetic pathways,
So cool.
and open my fucking eyes, yeah, all of it's in that movie, you know.
I'm gonna have to
But
watch it.
The Alchemist, I felt really gave me the language that I needed to understand how to read signs, um, how to understand synchronicities, how to listen to my gut. Yeah, that's a really good start.
I think that's really good. And the last thing on that, as I was saying before, I've spoken to a lot of people, especially quite like inverted commas, high profile people that don't necessarily want to talk about this out loud. Do you have any suspicions why people do that? Because I know that you're very passionate about this.
Why people don't want to talk about this? Well, it's crazy. There's a high watermark that has been surpassed recently, especially with a lot of which is why I felt free to, just talk about this stuff. Like there's stuff out there, like a lot of, that used to be conspiracy, but now it's like, oh, okay. So there are real, like, CIA programs about this stuff. Like they really, like, the men who stare at goats, and like they make movies about this shit. And there's, that they're remote viewing is a thing in the military. Like,
Yeah, they've been doing it for
what's
years.
that? You know what I mean? So, and they make movies of the Manchurian Candidate. And so if you just go at it from that angle, it's just like, this is not a conspiracy. These are ways to have extra sensory abilities,
Because that word gets thrown around a lot. And once you hear that word, it throws people off because not everything is. And
yes, yeah. I think it's because, yeah, it's kind of taboo. I think it's kind of scary. I think people like to think like they understand how the world works, and but because imagine, like, you're playing Super Mario Brothers and you master that first level, and the next level is the fire level, and you're scared shitless of the fire level. You're just going to stay on that first level. And that's what a lot of people are doing. They're just like, no, that it's fear. That shit scares the shit out of me. I don't like the idea that, I could have more senses than the 5 I have. I don't, because with that brings some scary shit. It brings, like, you have to rearrange how you think about the world,
Yeah.
and that's fucking hard for people, especially when they're, 30s, 40s, they think they figured it out. And if you get, it's hard for people. Yeah. A
Even though
lot
I
of
don't,
people have, sorry.
I was just about to say, I don't believe this saying, but it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it is. It's tough. Yeah, like talking about this stuff with my dad, like, I feel like he could really use a lot of this stuff, like a lot of this. He's a doctor, and I feel like, man, and just, the symbol, the staff, the ancient symbol, with the snakes,
Yeah.
and I don't think he knows what that is really. Oh, that's the medical symbol. It's just like, no, actually, that's Kundalini.
Kundalini. Yeah.
That's the sacred chi energy that we all have stored in us. That's healing. That if you figure out how to use it right, you can heal yourself. That's what that symbol is. no, we got to cut them open and take their organs out. It's just like, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, and that's pervasive throughout our culture where you have like not understanding the full. And I think that, yeah, you just, there's a lot like that, a lot of symbols that have been turned upside down in our culture, that if we really knew the true meaning, we really would be able to work outside of the system that they're presenting, which is like is freaky. So I think I just talk about that stuff. I don't really I don't really try to rock the boat otherwise. I think that's why I'm able to talk about this stuff.
No,
I'm
I
thinking
think
about
your intention comes into play. It's sort of like pure love and light. I'm looking at you, you're glowing, you're smiling, and you're doing it. First of all, you're very interested in it. That's like the artist path and being able to do the 1,000 things that you do, and also the intention to help and inspire others. Because one thing which
I think I'm just very curious, man. Like,
I think that's the goal.
I think that for a long time, I look at what's being presented as reality, and I go, nah, come on. I was always the kid in the audience that saw what the magician was doing. For some reason, I was always placed at the point in the audience where I was like, oh, okay, I see he's sticking a string in his pants right there. Like I was always able to see through the illusion. And yeah, there's a lot of sleight of hand.
That's very cool. And going on to we're going to have to do, as I said, 10 parts, but going on to like the failure side, and I've written down a few things as well, because I think this is also extremely relatable in terms of like when I was doing the research for you and getting to know you even from this conversation, what came up is like resilience, like chutzpah. You've gone through a lot of rejection, and you really had like a drive to succeed. And I'm just going to say a few words because we could speak about this for ages, and you just add what you want to. You can do whatever you're doing, and then I can add. Or do you want me to continue?
No, I'm listening.
Sorry.
No, I was getting my. I wrote down a bunch of different times I failed, so okay. I was just getting that ready.
Yeah, that's awesome. There are like a few things, like you tried to get into Juliette, and you had a hilarious experience.
Oh yeah.
Actually, we'll see how we go. Your Juliette experience. We've had a lot of actors who didn't get into Juliette. In fact, I don't even know if we've had many who didn't get into it, and they felt really low about it. But you're laughing, so okay, you just go on. You take the.
Mine was so bad. I was just like, oh god, because I was ridiculous. I mean, at the time, it stung. It fucking stung. It hurt. But when I look back at it, it was hilarious because. Thank you for reminding me that. Yeah, so I'm going to audition for Juliette, right? And I get there, and everybody is. It's all these kids are in this room. All these, I guess they were like all these young kids. Were some older kids too, because people are constantly trying to get into the fucking program. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like fucking 17, 18, and I was like class clown. And here comes the pretentious, professor who looked like Jean-Luc Picard, he had like these like perfectly like the shininess and he had this gray, like silverish beard, and he had the black turtleneck and everything in black. And I was like, wow, this guy's an SNL character. So right away, I'm like thinking about all these jokes in my head about him. And then he comes out, he doesn't fucking say anything. And he's just like, it's burning. And then everyone's just like around me, it's just all, ooh, ah, hot, and I'm just like, right away, I'm just like, exactly. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? And then I'm ooh, yikes. I'm like trying to do my best. And now he's just all, it's cold. And everyone's just like, and I'm just like, hey, hands in my pockets. I'm like stomping this, and I'm just laughing at it audibly. And then, of course, this is the guy who's running the whole thing. I was like, okay, all I have to do is get past this guy. No, he's the head of the.
He's the guy that kills.
So I come in to do my audition. I'm like, I'm going to kill in my audition. And you come in and you do a contemporary and a Shakespeare. So I'm doing my Shakespeare, which I'm like, I think I was doing something for Midsummer Night's Dream. And I'm like, I'm brilliant. I'm like, oh, they're gonna hire me. You know, this is easy. I'm in the middle of my fucking audition. And there's this long table of people. And he's like at the end of it. And he gestures to somebody and somebody comes. And now everyone's giving sandwich orders during my audition. I mustard and pickles on the side this time, okay? While I'm just like, oh my God. So I get through my audition. I wait for them to finish ordering.
I make that up.
The kid walks out. He's just like, looks at me like, and leaves. And I'm like, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, of course, I didn't respect his, you know, rehearsal process. He's not going to respect me. So he beckons me over to the table, and I sit down, and he goes, you're too young. Come back when you've had some life experience.
Oh, wow.
And I go, but you didn't even watch my audition. You ordered sandwiches during my fucking audition. And he was just like, I didn't have to watch it.
Wow.
I can tell right away that you're too young for us. Thank you. And I was just like, enjoy your lunch. Oh my God. It was, man, I've had a lot of asshole experiences like that. But I was an asshole to him, so.
Yeah, but not quite in the same way. Like,
not in the same way, no.
No, that is, you know, everyone thinks you get into Juilliard and you're set for life and you're young, and this guy literally just shat on you. And is that what led you to do improv and comedy? Was that a way to, or was that later?
Had that experience? No, I mean, I was a kid, man. I was like, oh, fuck, I didn't get into Juilliard. Okay, so I auditioned for other places. Everyone else, I had a lot of success getting into other places. Ended up going to BU, and did well there. You know, like that's what it's about. You know, you get the rejection, and then you learn how to deal with it. You can either laugh at it, like that. That's the thing that I learned. As I've been on this path, is that you get to choose if your ego is bruised. So you can choose. There's like a light switch in your head. You can choose to keep the light on that has you feeling shitty about yourself and the audition or whatever the hell that just happened that you didn't get. Or you can choose to switch that off and just like be happy. You know, it's like that. It's that easy. It's all in your control.
Agreed.
And once you figure that out, once you figure out how to switch the rejection off, you learn to like tango with it. What was really helpful was Philip Seymour Hoffman, may he rest in peace, said that when he was auditioning, he was like, you know, you're not going to get every part. It's impossible. It's you know, mathematically impossible. So as a young actor, or as an actor, you have to treat every audition like it's a performance, because you're getting to perform. They're giving you a chance to perform. And you may not get that role, but they'll fucking remember you, and they'll maybe, you know, remember you down the line and put you in something else. And so then that's when auditioning became easier. I was like, oh, I got a chance to perform. I don't give a shit if I get it. I know I killed it in there, you know?
It's a very interesting because, you know, you've been doing this for a while, and rejection is the name of the game. You've probably been rejected 100 times to every role, even at this stage in your career. And for you to just be like, yeah, you just laugh it off or you smile. It's, you know, but when you're being rejected 2,000 times, it can still hit you. But I know you said you control your ego. So if you get rejected now, does it not impact you whatsoever?
Some of them hurt, but I can get over it much quicker. You know,
that's so cool.
When I was when I was younger, something happened. Oh man, it's like just stays with you. Like now, it's just like, what? Oh yeah, right, that thing. It's like it's easier to go on to the next nowadays.
That's very cool. And you're
And
looking at
it's also good to like now I'm just like, oh, who got that part? Great, I fucking love that guy.
nice, the abundance
Like
mindset.
yeah, finally at a point in my career where it's like there's no in my life where I'm just like there's no jealousy. When you're like, it's really hard to figure that out where don't worry about what other people are doing. Don't worry about what they're doing. That's energy taken away from thinking about what, just focus on what you're doing. Those are the things that that's what I found. This is really important. The moments in my life where I had nothing going on, but I sat down and I got my friends together and I said, let's make something for the love of the game. Let's just make something for us that makes us laugh, that we enjoy doing. Every single fucking time I did that, the universe smiled on me. The universe conspired in my favor and said, I like what they're doing. They're doing it for the right reasons. I'm going to help them out. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, you don't have anything going on? Just make something that you would love to make. And odds are the universe is going to help you out with that.
Oh, that is such brilliant advice. And if we have time, I know that we're talking about chutzpah before and how like you were going to do an SNL tape and then the lady didn't look at you, or you've had a meeting where the person did a fake call, or there's been like different gatekeepers. Is there any last one you want to leave us with, or any last failure story? Because I know it looks like you've got a lot.
I do have a lot, man. Which one do I want to do? I mean, yeah, the SNL one was rough, because I made a whole tape, but that wasn't me. That was just, yeah.
People won't know the context. You can go into it if you want. I'm just worried about your time, so you never get.
No, I don't care. It's like that was. I guess I failed in picking the right agent or whatever, or relying on this person, or believing in the person. Like you can get stuck in a rut just picking the wrong representation, and
Yeah.
but yeah, like I had like I had crazy, like this is a crazy one.
Ooh,
So the Matthew, what the hell's his name? Who
Matthew
the
McConaughey?
show? No, the show Mad Men.
Yeah.
Okay, Matthew Weiner.
Oh, okay. I'm not. Yeah.
The guy who created it.
Yep.
Mad Men. See, this was crazy because I was just being myself, but it was. I'm at this. This is a crazy story. So I'm staying at the Chateau Marmont, all right, and they have me in a room there that's overlooking the restaurant, and I'm in there. I'm doing a movie, so they have me staying in there. I'm like, oh shit, okay, I'm at the Chateau, and they're throwing this huge party for, I think it was Vanity Fair magazine or whatever, and I get a note slipped under my door. We're like, we're sorry about the noise. Feel free to come down to the party. So I'm just like, okay, I guess I'm gonna go to this fucking party. And I go down. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a bit where I go down and I have like a coffee mug, and I have a robe on, and I'm just like, keep it down out here, walk around the party like, oh, some of us are trying to sleep, and it did not go over well at all. Everyone's looking like gorgeous, it's Vanity Fair. Everyone's like dressed to the nines, and I'm sitting there with like a shitty, like crazy, like t-shirt and a, like a robe, and I'm just like, like anti Vanity Fair, and I'm like, wow, what am I doing, man? I'm just ridiculous. And then Matthew Weiner walks up to me, who is I think, yeah, that's what his name is. And he created Mad Men. And Mad Men was huge at that time. And we're in the middle of all these people. I'm like, I have a drink and I'm trying not to spill it on myself. And I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing here? And I get this tap and I turn around and there's Matthew and he's just like, Dan Fogler, I saw you in the spelling bee.
Wow.
You gotta come. It's like, you gotta come and audition for me for Mad Men. And I go, oh my God, are you kidding me? That would be ridiculous. Okay. That's the vernacular that I was using. Ridiculous equals cool, awesome, amazing for me. For him, it was, I don't think it would be ridiculous. And he walks away from me. And in the crowd, I'm just like, no, wait. Like, no, that's how
I need this. Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. I was like, and then I was like, maybe I can get I'll explain it to my reps and they're like, no, man, don't even try.
Wow.
I was like, what a failure. I was like, wow, I have to stop saying that would be ridiculous because not everyone knows what the fuck I'm saying.
Yeah, but even still, to have a reaction like that is obscene. You would have been like, please, I'll change. I'll do anything.
Yes. Give me a chance.
I'm glad that you can laugh at it. You've got a great mindset.
So ridiculous.
Along this, yeah, it is.
It literally is ridiculous.
Is there? It's up to you. We can do a quick rapid fire. Yeah, or you.
Yeah, what do you got? What do you got? I got.
I want you to. It's your podcast. I got
10 more.
Okay, we'll do 10. Yeah. Lay it on me. This is fun.
What do you need?
Oh no! If you want to go through your list,
rapid fire.
We can do that as well. But I think your list will be better.
Okay. I once. Okay, I'll tell this. This is the last thing I'll talk about. This was well, maybe two things, but so I was doing the spelling bee show, and people would come to see the show, like famous people. And after the show, I was just like so exhausted. I was just like, I just want to get the fuck out of there. So I'm like on my way out, and my buddy runs up to me. He's like, dude, Michael J. Fox is in the green room and you have to, he wants to meet you. And I was like, oh my God, okay, yes. So now I'm like running through like the inside the theater that's like trying to, catch him. I get to the green room. They're like, dude, you just missed him. I'm like, oh, fuck. So I go running. I'm running around and I'm running through the corridors, and I turn a corner, and then I'm face to face with Michael J. Fox and his family. And I'm just like, holy shit. And he's like, hey, that was bad. He goes, hey, I hear you do an impression of me. And I go, oh shit. I go, yeah, I do a bit in my stand-up, but like I don't want to do it. He's like, no, it's fine. Like David Spade does one. And I was just like, oh shit. Like, he's like, just do it. And I'm like, oh fuck.
In front of his family as well.
In front of his family. And I do my thing, and I'm just like, whoa, Doc, tell me you made a time machine, had a Mallory, and so it's a stupid thing. And
that's great.
He's looking at me, and he goes, my voice isn't that high. And he turns around and he walks, and I'm like, oh, I'm just like, oh my God, Dan, never do the impression for the person. Never, ever. And he's walking away with his family. I'm like, how do I save this? And I turn around and I do my best Doc Brown. I'm like, oh, my God, Olympians. And he turns around. He's just all, wow, Doc. And I was like, oh God, thank God. Like this, we fucking pulled it out of the nosedive, man. Like that's like, I love Michael J. Fox. And if it ended like that, I just would have been heartbroken. Yeah, it's good to know other impressions.
You haven't done Christopher Walken too, Christopher Walken as well?
Say what?
Haven't you done Christopher Walken to him as well?
Yeah, I did, man. Like, I mean, yeah, no, I always try to avoid it because
That's a good rule.
he's I was like, hey man, everyone does an impression of you. And he was just like, just never do it during a take. Jay Moore. He did it during a take all the time. And I was just like, right. And so I was just like, oh shit, yeah. And I realized like, yeah, man, and there were times where I'd watch him do something in Balls of Fury, he'd do a monologue or something, and he'd walk off, and I'd want so badly to just be like, man, I loved how you were like, hey, wow, bing, and I couldn't do it. I was like, man, I love how you were, and he'd be like, yeah, fine, and he knew that I wanted to do it so bad.
It's like an Austin Powers Gold member. I was like, Molly, 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 and if you haven't seen that, he just can't stop. It's just, that's like my life where you want to say something and you can't, and he holds it on, and the guy's got a massive mole. So Austin Powers just goes, Molly, 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 Molly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess it's just like that. It is.
Yeah. That's life. Ed, sorry, I cut you off before you were saying something, or you had another example.
Man, I just have a lot of shit. But yeah, I mean, I said the worst. I have a tendency to say the worst thing in the world to people at the wrong time, and but I gotta go. We'll end with this one.
Yep.
Where so this is me being a total idiot. So my buddy was working at this sound studio called Sound One in Manhattan. This is like right when I graduated college. So I'm like 20, 22, something. And my buddy goes, dude, fucking Bill Murray is here doing voiceover for a movie for Garfield. You gotta come and meet Bill Murray. And I was just like, oh shit. So I run down to whatever 49th Street, and I go, and I get there, and I catch Bill Murray coming out of the studio, and he's just all like, meh. He's not happy, but I'm just like not reading that at all. And I see him, and I just turn to just fucking jello. Like, I was like, he's like my hero, and I'm holding onto the banister, just to keep standing, And he puts his hand out, and he's like, hey, I'm Bill. And I take his hand with this hand because I can't move my shaking hand. I'm like, oh my God, I'm having some kind of weird attack. And I go to shake his hand like this. And right away, I'm just like, this is so weird. And he's shaking my hand, and he's just like, he's like, I'm Bill. And I'm just like, I know, And then he's just like, okay. And then I was like, fucking dude, say something, say anything, just fucking say something. And I go, full circle. And he's just like, what? And he got like, I'm like, full circle. It's all like, go on. And I go, well, I just find it interesting how the guy who did the Garfield voice did your voice on the animated Ghostbusters cartoon, and now you're doing the Garfield voice.
Oh my God.
And he goes, yeah. Full circle. And then he just like does a full circle and walks right back into the studio. And I was just like, just left there like fucking Igor, man. Like, I don't know what happened to me.
It's nice that you still get shocked, celebrity shocked, whatever the right word is. That's hilarious.
Yeah, it depends on who it is. Like that was one of the first guys I ever met. But yeah, sometimes I was just like, yeah, no, Chris Walken, like I got a little bit of tingle, but like, yeah, I can talk to this guy. But
words come out.
Yeah, but sometime, well, that's not true. I said some crazy shit to Chris too. Yeah, I gotta go. I
Okay.
gotta. This has been fun though, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Let
Before
me know what your audience thinks about getting in touch with their chakras.
I would love to. Before we go, how can people follow you, keep up to date with you, and check out all the cool stuff?
Okay. Well, if the government hasn't taken me away, I'm going to be at Mr. Dan Fogler on Twitter, at Fogler's Fictions on Instagram. And that's the best way to catch up with me. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. You're a mensch. This was amazing, and you will inspire and motivate many. So I really appreciate this.
Yeah. Fun, man. My pleasure. Yeah, this was cool. You don't get to talk about this stuff all the time,
I love Dan's take on how the universe conspires with us. He talks about the ripples in the universe and how our intention is crucial to achieve a goal or dream. He stresses the importance of adding joy and passion alongside our intention. He believes that this magical formula will help us to be rewarded in some way. Regardless if one is aligned with this thinking, Dan is essentially encouraging us to play and have fun, to look deeply at what we really want, not necessarily what we think we should have, but what is actually necessary for our highest good. Working backwards and figuring out exactly what we need is a great way to break down a goal and achieve it. He also encourages us to be mindful with our words and almost pretend that someone else is listening. Ask what we want, be bold, be kind, and more importantly, have clear intentions. This will help us conspire with the universe to help us achieve our dreams. So I'll leave you with this epic quote by the author of The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho. And when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.